Hello, I'm Sophie and I have a business called Sophie's Homemade Ice Cream. Okay, you can vary this recipe by adding anything really. You could add chopped up nuts. I've got one I've just done with chopped salted almonds, which is rather gorgeous. You could add rose water. You have vanilla rose. You could add any kind of fruit, pureed.
And does it have to be pureed, or could you use orange juice or something, or would that make it too runny?
Orange juice you would never add a juice to a hot custard, because then you get curdling. So you could add juice, certainly, as your flavouring, but you would have to add that to the cold custard once it had cooled down. Most of my fruit recipes I do the cold method for anyway. You could do ground up nuts and put that into the custard and put pieces of nut in as well. You can candy the nuts, which you've probably heard of. What's it when you have nuts in sweet stuff? Praline. It's a nightmare to make praline. You have to boil up this toffee, throw the nuts in, and then they're supposed to magically come out all beautifully coated. And 9 times out of 10 it goes wrong, but I've discovered this fantastic way of doing candied nuts, where you just roll the nuts in a bit of sugar syrup, which is sugar dissolved in water, coat them in a bit of caster sugar and put them in the oven on a low heat for 45 minutes, and you have these crispy, sugary nuts. It's fantastic. Raspberries, they're a little bit hard work. You puree them and then you push them through a sieve, so you get your pips out. I mean, I would just leave them in, but when I first made it, my sister said, ooh, the pips. So I've always sieved it, and you can do that with most fruits. And for instance, all the recipes that I put a bit of lemon or a bit of orange in, I squeeze the orange and then I push the resulting juice. I tip out all the bits that ends up on the top of the squeezer into a sieve and push all those bits and get as much juice as I can possibly get out of it. I don't just have the bits in the fruit, but I think you can use anything. You can use anything. Some of them I cook the fruit first. For instance, my apple and pear sorbets, they're very hard to get a really good flavour from, so I peel and I put the peel into the syrup that is cooking and cook that like crazy to try and get the flavour from the skins into the syrup. And then I cool that down, I sieve out the skins and I squeeze it like mad, and I've got a pear or apple flavoured syrup. And then the fruit is pureed separately, and then the two are put together, and then it's the same old freezing process. The amount of sugar determines how soft the ice cream is, and the amount of alcohol in it determines how soft the ice cream is. Sometimes I put in per litre a tablespoon of golden syrup or a tablespoon of honey if I want it to be easily scoopable. So say if I was trying to make an ice cream that you need to scoop into cornets, I would put a bit of extra sweetness, because as I said earlier, that affects the softness. If you're just going to have it in a pot and you're quite happy for it to be quite hard, because that has its own merits too. I do a lot of sorbets which are a dairy-free option, and they're very simple. It's just fruit, basically fruit, sugar and water sorbet, basically. So you can either use just fresh fruit pureed, for instance with strawberry or raspberry or blackberry or and you would puree that, take out whatever you don't want, puree it, and add sugar, cream, possibly sugar syrup, possibly half milk, half cream, depending on the richness you want. And what I do is, it's not as good a ripple as in shops. It's got more fruit probably than the vanilla. It's basically, you've got vanilla, haven't you? Or some kind of white creamy ice cream and some kind of fruit. So I make a fruit sorbet and I make the ice cream. And then, and I freeze them all both at the same time. And then I get my pots all ready, and I go blum 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 with the vanilla, get that back in the freezer, get the other one out, go blum 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 blum, and I keep doing that, so I layer it up. And then don't do a great big stir, because then you get this mushy, nasty looking thing. Just maybe chop it through once with a knife, maybe, or just leave it. People quite like seeing the bright red and then the vanilla. It looks good, and they still get them both on their spoon.